This guy on the screen right here, his name is Jim Pattison. We in BC, we already know who this guy is. He's the owner of Save On Foods, Buy Low Foods. He has multiple car dealerships, and his name is plastered over all of those billboards that we see around town. And I think he also owns Ripley's, believe it or not, and the Guinness World Records. He's one of the richest guys in British Columbia, and he does a lot of business transactions. But he has a potential transaction right now that's making me question him. He owns a warehouse somewhere in the United States and is planning to sell it to ICE. So I'm going to talk about this in today's video. I also have another report that talks about Nexus applications. I know many of us have it. I mean, I do. But you'll be shocked by the drop in applications in 2025. And it's another indicator outside of cross-border shopping and the businesses that we hear that are struggling that really shows how Canadian interest in the United States is dropping. And lastly, another threat from this clown, who's basically saying that we have to buy the F-35s. Otherwise, they're going to fly their planes in our country. So I'm going to talk about all of this in today's video. Today's backdrop comes from Scroobius Max from our Discord server, who sent in this photo from Niagara Falls. On the fun side, I added that in because I think the our side is better. I'm getting to know a lot of people from our Discord server, and it's actually nice to talk to people in real time that actually watch my videos. So if you're interested in joining the Discord server, the link will be in the description below. Thanks Scroobius Max for sending this over. To give our international viewers who might not know what Nexus is, it's basically a card that allows Canadians to go to the US, and we get our own separate lines that we can use for security checks, and we're more of a trusted traveler, I guess. We can use it at land crossings. We have our own lane that we can use, and even at the airports, there's a separate line we can use to bypass the long lineups. So it's the same when we come back into Canada. We can use the card and bypass the long lineups. So it was a popular thing to have. And sometimes the wait times for interviews would be like up to half a year or even longer. So this report that you're going to see right now and the drop in interest in the Nexus program is actually a huge metric to show that the Canadians are not interested anymore. Let's take a look at the report.
Things were a lot slower at the Canada-US border in 2025, and new numbers suggest they might not pick up this year either. Canadian Nexus applications were cut in half last year. As Tim Brooke explains, it's the latest set of numbers that show Canuck displeasure with America, and it could be a sign of things to come.
From Beijing, China to Coutts, Alberta.
Our federal government is out there trying to find alternatives for trade, and we are doing the exact same in terms of our travel patterns.
Many Canadians have said they no longer want to depend on the U.S., and data shows they're putting their money where their mouth is. The CBSA tells us 344,000 applied for a Nexus pass last year. That's down from almost 700,000 in 2024. A 51% year-over-year decrease.
If you ask me, this is huge. Having over a 50% drop shows me that the Canadians that actually do travel frequently to the United States or want a more streamlined method to get into their country has gone down. Not everybody wants this card. Only those that go to the US frequently are going to apply for this card. So the application is being down by over 50%. To me, this is actually a better indicator than the border number crossings that we see. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this. And if you agree with me and you want to hear more Canadian news from an average Canadian, help my channel out by hitting the subscribe button below.
The pass allows pre-approved travelers to skip main security lines at border crossings and airports.
Travel is hugely substitutable. So for every great destination there is in the US, we can find something very close outside of the U.S.
It's been a nice change for travel agents.
It's opening up the world for a lot of different people. Japan is very huge. Going to South America is really big, as well as Europe is always popular.
I think this has been a blessing in disguise, to be honest. And I firmly believe that every Canadian that used to go to the United States should start to explore the rest of the world. I know it's easy for me to say because I've traveled quite a bit, mainly for work, but it really has opened up my eyes. And to be able to experience different cultures and different communities, and to really see what's out there, it has actually made the United States less attractive to me, even before all this stuff started.
Experts and countless studies link the behavioral switch directly back to U.S. President Donald Trump.
So I think it's the uncertainty, the safety. It's not an easy travel decision to go there anymore.
Take this Calgary couple. They recently skipped their 15th annual Hawaii trip to instead go to Africa.
We have no desire to spend our money in the United States. I doubt that that's going to change, at least until this administration is gone.
It's not yet clear if a strong midterm for the Democrats or a new administration in 2028 will change things. For now, many Canadians are making it clear they'd rather be elsewhere.
Now, having a Nexus card doesn't make you immune. And I've mentioned this on my channel in the past. I had some friends that went to Las Vegas last year for an event. They both had Nexus. And they did the usual procedures that they normally do at the pre-clearance. But even with a Nexus card, they were still pulled in. All of their belongings were searched. And even their checked-in luggage was brought up to be searched as well. My friends told me that it was a horrible experience. And since then, they've never been back. But they're also a clear case of Canadians who booked the trip in 2024, but didn't want to give it up because it was too much money just to give away. So when I see the numbers down by 50%, it tells me that the serious travelers, the ones that go frequently, not the ones that just might go down every so often, but the ones that want the better experience crossing the border, they're not interested anymore. Now this next guy, Jim Pattison, one of the richest guys in British Columbia, owner of Save On Foods, all of those billboards we see around town, the car dealerships, and a few other things as well. He's planning to sell one of his buildings in the United States to ICE, to use as a detention facility, and in my mind, enabling ICE to do what they need to do. I used to think better of Jim Pattison, but if he goes through with this deal, he's lost all of my respect. Let's take a look at this report.
Well, as tensions mount in the United States over the actions of U.S. immigration enforcement officers, a Canadian company is facing criticism for a proposed business deal with ICE. Yasmin Hanea has been looking into the backlash and tell us about the story.
Yeah, basically the Department of Homeland Security wants to buy this giant warehouse in Hanover County, Virginia, that's owned by BC billionaire Jim Pattison. It says that it wants to turn this facility into an ICE facility. It says that ICE may make additions and improvements and renovations to the site in the exterior and interior, including maybe adding processing and holding cells and a guard shack. As I said, this is a giant warehouse. It's about 550,000 square feet. Jim Pattison Developments bought the site in 2022 for about $7.6 million US dollars, but property records show that its value could skyrocket to about 50 million US dollars this year after improvements.
So Jim Pattison's set to make about $43 million on this, if he decides to sell to ICE. Now, if he was selling to anybody else, I really wouldn't give a shit, and I would actually say, hey, that's a pretty good investment. But he's selling to ICE, and I guess the Department of Homeland Security. It's like selling your shop to one of Hitler's cronies, when you know that nothing good is going to come out of that building, and there's going to be a lot of people in pain and screaming and in fear of a building that you just sold to ICE. If it was me, I wouldn't be able to do it, no matter how much money it is. It's just not morally right to me.
And we reached out to Jim Pattison Developments about this proposed deal with ICE, but we haven't heard back.
Yeah, so is this a good business deal? Is this a case of dealing with an organization that you shouldn't deal with? These are the kinds of things that people are debating. Let's talk about Jim Pattison for a moment, because we know a lot about him here in BC. His name is everywhere. His legend is well known, but maybe not so much for people in the rest of the country.
Yeah, for sure. Jim Pattison, 97 years old. He's one of the richest people in Canada, and he's a real titan in Western Canada specifically. So if you've probably shopped at one of his grocery stores like Save On Foods, or you've probably visited one of his hospitals because he's also a huge philanthropist, or if you've driven on a highway and passed an advertising sign, it was probably one of his. So he's a huge titan across several sectors, including media, advertising, agriculture, resorts, car dealerships, the list really goes on.
Yeah, and former Premier Glenn Clark ended up working for him. He also had a key role with Expo 86. You won't remember this,
No,
but
I was not born.
I know.
I was born, but I was a young kid at the time. But I do remember Expo 86. I just remember the McBarge was one of my favorite things. And I heard recently that it just sunk. But anyways, they did bring up a good point, that Jim Pattison has done a lot for Canada. Yes, his Save On Foods prices are pretty high. I used to shop there, but not as much lately. So I am really surprised that he is actually considering to sell one of his properties to ICE. Yes, I guess it makes financial sense, but this is going to be a real big test for Jim Pattison and his morals on what's going on around the world and where he stands. To be honest, I think this is going to make or break his reputation. At least for me. But if you agree with me, let me know in the comments.
What has been some of the reaction to this deal?
Yeah, and there's been lots of reaction since the story was published. I've had a lot of residents in Hanover County actually reach out to me saying they are opposed to this proposed deal for a variety of reasons, including concerns about ICE's immigration crackdown that has been deadly. Also, that they are worried that having such a facility could potentially tank property value. We've also heard from here in Canada from the leader of the BC Green Party, who is now calling for a boycott on Jim Pattison businesses and calling on the billionaire to sever ties with ICE.
No, that's a good point. There's actually concerns on both sides of the borders. For those locally around that building, it's going to be a lot more activity going on if Jim Pattison decides to sell to them, because the ICE agents are going to be all over the place. So if I was a resident around that area, I would be concerned as well. But when it comes to Jim Pattison himself, I know people are calling to boycott his businesses. Don't buy a car from his dealerships, or don't go to Save On Foods for your groceries. I don't know how you boycott a billboard though. Just don't look at it, I guess. But my point is that I want to see what Jim Pattison actually does. I want to see if he actually does make that sale. And if he doesn't, I give him credit. But if he does, I will boycott the shit out of everything that he has. So Jimmy, you're at a crossroads right now, and I hope you make the right decision. Now I'm going to jump forward a little bit in this report, because it was a little bit of a longer one. But if you want to see the whole thing, the link will be in the description below.
And Ian, you've alluded to this, but, Canadian businesses have done business with ICE in the past. There's nothing illegal about it. But right now, in this moment, there are those ethical concerns, those questions that people are bringing up. So, for example, we spoke to an associate professor of ethics at Toronto Metropolitan University, and he says right now, amid this crackdown, that Canadian companies must draw a clear line about who they do business with, or else they risk tanking public opinion and staff morale. Here's more from this expert.
When it comes to human rights violations and when it comes to activities that seem to be eroding the rule of law, I think at some point companies need to sort of draw a line and say, look, we don't want to be contributing to that.
So Hanover County officials are expected to discuss this potential deal tomorrow, Ian.
All right, Yasmin, thank you very much.
Now, going back to what she said earlier, I'm not aware of any other businesses from BC that are doing business with ICE. Does anybody know? If you do, let me know. I'm going to have to research this a little bit and find out who they are. But going back to the professor from the Toronto Metropolitan University. Hey, Wayne, is that one of your colleagues? Anyways, what he said is that the companies have to draw a line. And I totally agree with that. And right now, Jim Pattison's company, they're hovering right above the line. So I really hope that Jim Pattison and his company have some morals on what's going on right now and factor that in, because their reputation is on the line. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this one, because this one hits closer to home for me just because I'm from BC. But I hope Jim does the right thing. Now this last one, it's going to frustrate me because it's about Pete Hoekstra. But I'm not going to end this entire video off on a bad note with him. I do have something positive at the end. He basically makes a subtle threat that if we don't buy the F-35s, that the United States is going to have to send their planes into our country. Let's take a look.
When a threat is detected in North American airspace, NORAD launches the closest available warplane. Sometimes that's an American fighter into Canada. But the U.S. ambassador to Ottawa says that arrangement would be impacted if Canada doesn't buy more American-made F-35s.
The structure that we see for NORAD would have to be altered. We'd probably have to get more F-35s.
The United States would?
The United States would.
In order to
fully protect the continent.
So if I'm reading that correctly, Hoekstra is basically saying that if you don't use our planes, we have the right to fly into your country because we don't think the Gripens are sufficient. Did I get that right?
Canada has committed to only 16 of the jets so far, insufficient to replace our existing fleet of aging fighters.
If Canada did not have the F-35, do you think that American planes would more often be in Canada?
That changes our, defense capability, and as such, we have to figure out how we're going to replace that.
His comment reaching the head of Canada's Air Force.
Can we maintain our sovereign control of airspace without F-35s.
I would offer that Canadian presence in NORAD absolutely reduces the risk and increases Canada's autonomy and ability to defend itself. The F-35 is one of the capabilities that Canada has decided to procure.
Canada's Defence Minister David McGuinty says there is no plan yet around further F-35 purchases.
Everything's under review.
Denmark is already flying the F-35. Many there now regret the decision.
I'm not sure we would buy F-35s again. They are in for repairs about half the time or even more. They need spare parts all the time. And if we can't get those from the Americans, within a month or so, I don't think we'll have an Air Force at all.
This is the part that has always scared me about the F-35s. They're US made, and if the United States decided to drag their ass on parts that we actually need, those planes are going to be in the hangar for a very long time. And Denmark is learning this the hard way. In my non-expert opinion, and I don't even know very much about planes, but if I see another country telling me that, hey, these F-35s that we bought, they're useless to us right now, why should Canada follow the same footsteps?
Polling suggests the majority of Canadians want the Carney government to move away from solely the F-35 in favor of the Swedish-built Gripen, even though the Defense Department assessed it as a less capable aircraft.
The challenge, I think, for many Canadians is they are being asked to spend billions of dollars buying a plane to help defend their country and their interests from a country that many Canadians see as the threat right now.
That's crazy. Okay, we're not a threat. Okay.
Oh, shut the hell up, Pete. I'm trying my best not to drop an F-bomb.
The ambassador also tells CBC News Canada could see more benefits to Canadian companies, which are helping to build the advanced plane.
Well, Canadian companies can also benefit from the Gripen as well. You see, you got two salespeople right now. One from a country that is trying to take us over, and also gaslight us, and basically tell us that we're wrong, and that we need to buy their fighter jets. And then if we don't, they're going to fly into our own country. On the other hand, he has Sweden, who's telling us that they are going to build factories. We're going to be in a working partnership with them, and we are going to create jobs. But the biggest thing is that they're not threatening to take us over. I'm really hoping Canada does go with the Swedish Gripen jets, no matter what. Some may say that it's not as good as the F-35s, but I'd rather go with a jet that's coming from a country who is not creating enemies all around the world. Now, before I end this video, I told everyone I would end it on a positive note. Today, when I woke up, the petition to have our Canadian media reviewed in Parliament is now at 10,767 signatures at the time I'm editing this video. We breached the 10,000 mark, I think, in about less than a week and a half. Because when I first started showing this on my videos, the signatures were only at about 1,500. And we still have a few days until February 3rd, when the petition actually closes. So I'm curious, do you think we can hit 15,000 signatures before it closes? Maybe. So if you would like to have our Canadian media reviewed for foreign investors, and keep the Canadians' interest in our media, the link to it will be in the description below, as well as my pinned comment. Okay, that's all I have for today's video. Now I have to give myself a pat on the back for not dropping the F-bomb because this guy was in my video. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to keep updated with the news from a Canadian perspective, help out my channel by hitting the like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.